Hey, my name is Brent here on Cloudy with the Chance of Meeples. Today we're taking a look at the 2 to 6 player game from renowned designer Richard Garfield. A game in which you will be adventuring, trying to collect the most treasure, all while fighting off goblins. Today we take a look at Treasure Hunter. Cue the thunder. So the radar overview for Treasure Hunter looks something like this. A game of drafting. It lasts 5 rounds as noted up this little tracker. So each round, players will be assembling a hand of 9 cards in hopes that they can become the greatest treasure hunter of them all. How does that work exactly? Well, you'll get a hand of 9 cards, you'll take a card, and then you'll pass them on rounds 1, 3, and 5 to the person to your left. So I would take one, I'd put it down, I'd pass them to my person on my left, and I would gain another 8 cards. Okay, and then I would keep doing this, or all the players will keep doing this until they have a hand of 9 cards. And then they will start on the adventure. They will then play all of their blue cards, okay? Their blue adventure cards. So let's say I had this one, Buck Thunderstick. Love the names of these guys. I would then play it in front of me, as well as all the other players would play their cards. And then we would see who has the highest total sum would get the max treasure. Whoever has the lowest total sum would get the min treasure. Okay, after everybody has played these cards, starting with the dealer, they could, if they wanted, could play some special ability cards that they may or may not have collected. So let's just say that I also collected this Goblin Mercenary. It would add 8 power to any color. In this case, I'd be attaching it to my blue cards, but it would cost me $3 to the goblins. And I would then have to pay, obviously not from the general supply, I would have to pay $1 to each goblin, but it would add 8, making my total sum for blue 20. So if I would actually have the highest sum, I would take this, and then this would go to the player with the lowest total sum. This is a different treasure. These yellow ones, they can be used at the end of a round, and they are the yellow scrolls at the end of the game. If you haven't used them, they are worth nothing. They're useless. So this one you would play on a round. Maybe you collected a lot of blue adventures, and you would gain 3 victory points for every blue card. Okay, so we would play all the blues, and then we go to the greens. And then again, everybody would play all the green cards. Let's say I had a 9, and maybe I didn't gain the max or the min treasure. And let me explain what these ones are. So this is another yellow scroll. This would times all your money times 2. So if at the end of the round I had $3 and I won this tile, I would get my $3. I would play this tile, and then I would get another 6. So whatever I played times 2. So I would get another $6. Or this tile. These gray scroll tiles are scored and calculated at the end of the game. This would be an extra 2 victory points for each goblin tile, which we'll get to in a moment. And then you have these absolute fine gems. First, you have this nice empty crate, -6. And then you have this sweet Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet. Well, maybe not really, but let's be honest, it's Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet. But so there's some really, really good ones in the game and really not so good ones in the game. So after we've done our adventuring, then we have to face the goblins, okay? So that's when you would also be collecting dog cards throughout the game. And how do these work? Well, each of these goblins, let's take these off here. Each of these goblins has a respective number of how many paws they need to be defeated. So this guy needs 1. This one needs 3. And this dude needs a whopping 5. It's not collective, so it wouldn't be 9. It would be whatever the highest is. So after everybody's, again, done all this, everybody would lay all their dog cards down in front of them. And then you would compare who has the most of these total paws. If this was my only one, I'd be able to defend myself from this guy, and I wouldn't have to pay. But I would have to pay for this guy, so I'd have to put 2 on that one, and I would have to put 3 on this one. Okay, so let's just say this was all on there. And of course, if I would actually played this Goblin Mercenary, I wouldn't have to pay any of these because I paid off the goblins to help me gain that. But just for example, that's how the dogs work and the goblins. So whoever has the highest total of these cards, and they range from 1 to 3, they would collect all these tiles. In case of a tiebreaker, there are numbers in the bottom corner here. So this is a 4 for the tiebreaker, and they go all the way up to 15. Whoever would have the most dog paws would collect all these tiles as well as all the money that's on them, and each one of these is worth 1 victory point at the end. And that would be the end of the round. You would then put more of these tiles out to start a new round. You'd put more treasure tiles. Ah, look at that. Thor's hammer showed up this round too. You put more of these on there. Everybody would hand their cards back in, shuffle them up, and then start a new round. I did mention that there is money, so at the end of the round, any money that you've collected, you would trade in right away for tokens. I want to show you a couple of these other special ability cards that players could also choose to play if they wanted. So you have this one, the Scare Goblin. You could play this, and you just kind of just scare the goblins off. You don't have to pay, but you can't also, you don't have the most dog paws. You could collect both dogs and this one, but that's that one. Mystery Mule, that would just be, you play it, you can play it at any time, and you could just pick up the top card and play it if you need to right then and there, or you just hold on to it. In that case, I picked up another dog. You have Sleeping Beauty. This would just cancel out one of your adventures. So let's say you had the max of red, and you could put this on one of them, and maybe that would make you have the minimum of red. This also helps you lower your total of -2. This would increase your total. Add a Flaming Sword, +4. And then each of the red, the green, and the blue all have an animal companion, which would times all of your adventures ×2. So in this case, if I played this 10 × 2, it would become, my total sum would be 20. So that is a Treasure Hunter. I will also say this is all the content for Treasure Hunter. These light green or light gray goblins are the base game, but I play with the expansion, and so they have these the darker shades and some special ability ones in there as well. So that, in a nutshell, is a Treasure Hunter. On to the final forecast. So the final forecast for a Treasure Hunter: Richard Garfield, known for King of Tokyo, Magic the Gathering, Bunny Kingdom, just a whole bunch of games that Richard Garfield's made, and Treasure Hunter is a good one. It's a solid family game. It's a solid drafting game. From the first time I ever saw a review, big shout out to Dan King, the Game Boy Geek. He was the one that reviewed this game that I saw back in, I believe, 2015 when the game was released. It was kind of the first review of board games that I saw, not knowing that people actually did this thing. And shout out to him. I watched his review and I was like, man, I need to get this game. I bought it. I bought it for my nieces. I've had a Treasure Hunter tournament and played a couple rounds and everybody added all their scores together. Just everybody I've showed this game to has really enjoyed it. It's just this next step from a game like a Draftosaurus or a Sushi Go or a Piece of Pie. Some of these lighter drafting games, I think this is a next step. So shout out to Dan King, the Game Boy Geek, for introducing this game to me, and hopefully I can introduce this game to someone else, and they can get into the board game hobby as a result. So gameplay, like drafting, but that doesn't mean there aren't tough decisions. Each round, I think there's a lot of tough decisions. You look at your starting hand and you're like, I want every one of these cards, and you just have to decide which is the most advantageous. The first couple rounds, depending on how many players you're playing with, so let's say in a 4-player game, after the fourth hand or fourth time you pass, you know all the cards or almost all the cards that are in play. So then you can kind of start thinking about what you've passed and then what to take for further on or to finish the round. So there is some tough choices, and So it's not just a straight, oh, this is, robotic. It's a simple choice every time. I don't think it is that simple. It's got some tough choices, but it's not going to leave you with a headache at the end that you just had to make these ridiculous decisions. It's just a light, fun drafting game. I love it that you can kind of go down different paths to victory. You can, fend off the dogs and then grab lots and lots of coins. Maybe win some of those coin multiplier tiles, and then hope that you can just collect a lot of coins on a single round and cash in and make bank in that. Going for dogs, and so you kind of collect all of them, hoping that other people don't gain any of those and then have to pay, and then you're gaining their money as well as those tiles, which are worth 1 victory point. I think that's a cool strategy. And then, of course, looking at the min and the max treasure, depending on if you're going to collect those. I love rounds, much like in the overview, when you have the max treasure really terrible and the min treasure really good, and it kind of reverses things, right? Because you don't want the max sum in a certain area at that point. You want the minimum, and then you take one card hoping that it is the minimum, but really never knowing. Of course, if you get like the 1 or the 2, you can feel pretty good about yourself, but some of these numbers in the middle, and then people start passing more of the same card, and I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. Plays well in all the player counts, 2 to 6. In the 2-player variant, you have a lot of control because you have two sets of cards, and you're always drawing up and taking one and discarding one, and so you have control on as to what you're not going to give your opponent. So 2-player works well. 3-player is one of my favorite ways to play, because you're always going to have someone get the minimum, and you're always going to have someone get the max treasure, and you never want to be the person in the middle. So 3-player is kind of the most tense. And then, to me, probably my favorite way to play this is with the 6-player count. As mentioned, I've done a treasure hunter tournament and had 2 games simultaneously, and the 6-player count is my favorite. It's probably the most chaotic and crazy, which I'm often not a fan of, just not having any control in the game. But I like the 6-player count because you kind of really don't know what's going to happen, and just so much fun and laughter has been had when I've had that, where people think they're about to get the min treasure, the max treasure, or whatever, get the best treasure, and someone plays this card or someone plays that card, and then it totally ruins what they had going for them, and they're left with nothing. Or when that goblin that costs 5, or you need 5 paws to defend it, comes out in a 6-player game, everybody's going crazy trying to get the dog cards, and some rounds there's just not many to go around, depending on the shuffling, and so lots of people may have to pay, and if you luck out that you have the most, you're making bank from all the other players, so there's a big swing in that. So 6-player count, I love that. A little chaotic, so you may not enjoy that. Maybe on the negative side, it is a luck game. Like I said, some rounds no dog cards are in the cards that are going around the table, so you can't defend yourself in that regard. There are special ability cards that help you with that, but it is still a card game. Cards are involved, so there's always going to be luck involved. It is only 5 rounds. It says 40 minutes on the box, but for other people, doing the same thing every round may not be enjoying. It may not be enjoyable for some, because each round you're taking a card, passing around. After you have your 9, you're playing them, shuffling it, doing it again. So those are minor things that other people may find that they don't enjoy. Not for me. I do enjoy it. 30, 60 minutes, that's kind of my sweet spot in the game, in gaming, and this hits that right there with that 40 to 45 minutes. So Treasure Hunter, if you can find a copy of this, I highly suggest trying it out and checking it out if you like drafting games, or just if you like fun games, check it out. Looking at it on the probability of meeples, I'm giving it a solid 75%, because like I said, I think this is a solid game. I think it's an overlooked game. I would love to also see more content for this game. I have all the content with the extra goblins and there's a -10 stump tile, which I think is just crazy when that comes out. I always like that. But I have all the content for this game, and I'd love to see more. I'd love to see more treasure tiles and more goblins and maybe more cards that do different effects. So Queen Games, I think you should get on that. But it is what it is. 75% chance of meeples for Treasure Hunter. Find us on Facebook, Cloudy with the Chance of Meeples. My name is Brent. Remember, grab your umbrella. The forecast is cloudy with a chance of meeples.